Good morning, I'm P. Renada. Welcome to Rappler Talk. I'm here with Joe Rody, Executive Designer at Walt Disney Imagineering, the company behind some of the world's most whimsical theme parks and resorts. Thank you for being here with us today, Joe. So first off, could you tell us a little bit about what goes on in a company called Walt Disney Imagineering? What exactly happens there?
Walt Disney Imagineering is the branch of the Disney company that conceptualizes, designs, and builds all the physical objects. So not films, not animated TV, but the parks, the rides within those parks, any of the resorts, all the road systems that connect the resorts. So it's a physical thing that's built in the world. Imagineering are the people who conceptualize it and see that it gets done.
So Joe, why did you agree to join the ASPAC conference?
Well, first, because of Maribel, who is just a force of nature, and I had met her at an earlier conference, and I would do whatever she asked me to do. But also, I am really interested in the sciences. I think it's very important that young people and people in general develop enthusiasm for scientific discovery so that they desire information. And I think this museum does a beautiful job of evoking emotional engagement with the sciences. So I wanted to come and do my part.
And so far from your reception of the people here, the ones who have asked you questions, what is your outlook on the youth's desire to learn more and to be more accepting or more interested in places like the Mine Museum?
I think everyone seems to recognize that the world is on the cusp of big opportunities here. Museums in general, I think, all know they need to engage with story and they need to engage with this sort of emotional and artistic enthusiasm to get people connected. And I sense that out of everybody that's here, and I think actually the environment that we're in does, as I say, a really good job of coming to grips with that.
Okay. How would you define a theme park?
Well, a theme park, any theme park, is a place where you walk inside of a story. If it's truly a theme park, not just an amusement park, then when you enter it, you have the sensation that you've stepped inside of a world that has its own rules and that is consistent in the way that a story is consistent.
So it's something like an immersive virtual reality.
Yes, in a way I think theme parks are kind of a pre-technological virtual reality. When they're working at their best, you feel as if you're completely surrounded by a place that you can believe.
Okay, so what goes on in your head when you imagine a theme park, when you're about to sort of brainstorm on a theme park?
Because a theme park is based on story, we work very similar to the way a novelist might work or a playwright might work. So you want to really think through, what is the story meant to be about? What are we trying to say? So that we have some sense of what should be in and what should be out as we reach decision points, because everything's cool, everything's interesting. How do we decide what's in and what's out? So the early work is story development work. And then when that's done, then you begin to get to specific designs like, oh, this would be a really cool ride, this would be a great theater piece, this would be a good interactive adventure. But first you have to understand, what are we saying? What is this?
So if a theme park caters to people, how does our knowledge of how the brain works? How does it help you create a theme park? What goes in your head?
Well, we're living in an era now when we're learning more and more about the human brain and how it truly functions. For many, many years, for centuries, this was really a speculative realm of philosophy, of literature, and therefore very debatable. Everybody could have an opinion, all these opinions could be valid. But this is moving now, and it's moving into the realm of science, and it will become things that people know, the way they know that the sun is in the middle of the solar system. So as we learn more things about the brain and the body and how it reacts to color, how it reacts to space, how it reacts to other human beings, how people really perceive for real, those become useful tools to any designer would want to know that, right? Want to have that as a tool in designing a place that is meant to be for people to enjoy.
earlier in your talk, you were mentioning how theme parks thrive on positive feelings and emotions, but a lot of the topics which need explaining the most, like for example, climate change or discrimination or hunger, a lot of times these are negative issues, heavy topics. So, but given the importance of explaining them to the public, how do you think we can sort of tweak or design theme parks in order to explain such sad or depressing topics?
When you're dealing with weighty topics, Animal Kingdom, for example, does deal with wildlife conservation. Wildlife conservation is a very a troubling subject with a lot of ambiguity in it. You have to create a narrative that is open-ended, a narrative that is not finished, that opens possibility at the back end, so that no matter how dark it may be in the moment, there's more coming. There's more to the story. And this opens up possibility, it opens up a sense of hope and a sense of participation. So the person who's engaging the story can visualize a place for themselves in a story that is not finished yet. It may be in the bad part of the story, but it's not finished.
So are you saying that theme parks can be built to make it seem as if the participant, the human, the individual can still determine the result of that heavy topic?
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be dishonest to pose any of these stories as complete. These are true stories that are engaged in the real world. Climate change, wildlife conservation, these are happening around us. And by definition, they're not complete.
Right.
So I do believe, in fact, there is room for participation, there's room for change. Human beings are remarkable in their capacity to suddenly just change their mind about a bunch of stuff and do something different. So I don't actually think it's a very hopeless situation. There is interesting possibility, but unforeseen possibility. And that's one of the reasons you don't want to close the story. You want it to stay open.
How have theme parks evolved through the years?
I believe our audiences have become more sophisticated, visually more sophisticated by exposure to more and more media, and narratively sophisticated by, again, exposure to media that speeds up your ability to process plot lines and story ideas. If you look at the pacing of older movies versus the pacing of a modern film or the pacing of a YouTube video, you can see the general public has speeded up their need to comprehend something. In a physical space, then, we have to make sure that we're providing sufficient stimuli, complicated stimuli, and rapidly reinforcing the experience so that people maintain a sense of interest.
You've mentioned earlier that you not only work on theme parks but also on resorts, hotels. How does a themed design or a themed approach add value to places like resorts and hotels?
Again, I think when you're creating a destination, in order for people to treat it like a destination, to visualize it before they go, to know that the place they want to go is only that place and no other place, the place has to have qualities that distinguish it absolutely from any other possible place it could possibly be. So that when you imagine it, you know, I'm only imagining that one place. No other place is like it. So my destination is clear. Usually to do that, you need something beyond the simple mechanics of getting the job built. Most hotels follow the same set of rules, and most hotels end up looking very much like each other because they're basically responding to the same set of rules. So you need to add rules that force the hotel to respond to something else, so that the resort isn't simply becoming a resort, but becoming a resort that has this additional quality, a visual quality, a narrative quality that's unmistakably only its own.
And am I right to stretch the idea of immersive approach, themed design, to even things like stores, restaurants? For example, Apple, right?
Yeah,
they have a
sure.
very immersive store, a very distinct design in their stores. So how can this be applied to other functional spaces like even homes, even schools, hospitals, workplaces?
People respond to cohesion, coherence, when things hang together and make sense. The general world around us is just a random assortment of phenomenon, and when we walk through that world, our brain is struggling to organize the experience, to form some kind of narrative, to make it make sense. And when we finally succeed in making sense out of something, we sense a really strong sense of accomplishment and reward. If a designer has taken a place and already ensured that it makes sense, that it has cohesion, that it hangs together and has a kind of poetic unity, then when people come to that place, they feel that. Their brain feels it. They sense, wow, this is like one big idea. And it's not just physical design, it's how people behave in the space, it's the music, it's every aspect of being in the place. If that all can be made to rhyme, people just have a really strong reaction to that. And it could be a store, it could be a restaurant, it could be any facility that expects people to want to come to it.
What can we expect from theme parks in the future?
I think people are asking theme parks to become more and more like an alternative reality. So the same expectation that we used to attach to a ride, when I get inside this ride, I'm contained inside of a world and everything makes sense, is now extending out into the land itself and possibly the entire park. Part of this is fed by gaming. People can go play a video game and be totally immersed inside of a believable world where they have autonomy and the ability to influence things. And they bring that expectation to theme parks. So as we go forward in the future, I expect more role playing, and I expect more totally enveloping sense of reality in the park.
That segues really well into my next question, which is, given that we have virtual reality games, everything's online, what's the added value of a physical space? I mean, why would people still want to go pay like money to go to an actual space when they can just be at home playing video games in the safety of their own couch?
So part of that is answered, I think, just by people who do it. There is an obvious difference between, say, being in a rainforest and looking at a rainforest on no matter what kind of virtual reality system. The brain is really just part of the body. So the real brain is the entire human body. And its emotions and its cognitive thoughts are influenced by where that body is. Whether you believe it or not, they are. So when you move that body and you put it in a real place, there's just a vastly richer and more unpredictable, unexpected set of thoughts going on than when I've isolated the body in a neutral space and I'm only playing to the eyes and the brain through a virtual reality. So I think physical places are actually operating at a much deeper and more resonant level than virtual places are.
So Joe, my last question would be, what kind of theme park would you like to see in the future? What kind of theme park would you like to do as a personal project? Or
I have a lot of ideas. I'm very intrigued by the idea of creating places that are truly not replicas of some place I can go and see on Earth, and not fantasies as much as the pure expression of ideas. Like, imagine if you could take the very spirit of adventure itself and determine, as if it were a culture, every single detail of a place that just felt everywhere I went like pure adventure. And yet, somehow it has doors and windows and pathways and stones and balconies, and all of those are just about this idea. I believe you would feel as if you had gone to another foreign country, but some country you couldn't name, and it would feel that real, and I think that'd be a really interesting thing to try to do.
so is that something in the pipeline?
No, it's just an idea.
It's just fantasy
an idea.
right
It's the
now.
kind of thing I would like to do. I have plenty of work right now that'll keep me busy for a long time.
Okay, thank you so much, Joe, for joining us, and we look forward to the future of theme parks.
Thank you.
We have been talking to Joe Rohde, Chief Imagineer at Walt Disney Imagineering. Thank you for joining us. I'm Pia Renada, and goodbye.